so I didn't get to put together something on Orange Tree. But
Okay.
we'll do it another time.
Yeah, it's no rush.
Actually, it's got very little to do with Eigenharp. If you actually look at it, it's mostly about configuring Orange Tree.
Yes, but a lot of things related to Eigenharp are configuration.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, mixing things together that people aren't used to mix together.
Yeah. It was interesting as far as I've got, because previously I'd mostly used AAS, but Orange Tree is much more flexible.
Mm-hmm. Which is strange, because you figure that a modeling plugin would be able to do more flexible things than a sampler. It's just an algorithm.
Yeah, but it's mostly in the scripting. In terms of setting up strums and picks. Maybe I'll have another look at AAS, and maybe a contrast between them would even be useful.
Yeah, I don't like the sound of AAS much for the guitar stuff. So I think you can really hear that it's a model, as opposed to piano tech. I don't think you can hear it's a model. It sounds like real piano to me. While the AAS stuff, I like their synth stuff, but their real model, real instrument modeling things, I don't know, it just doesn't sound that good to me.
The strings are not bad.
Yes,
but I agree. I think they just used their string model for the guitar, and frankly, I should try this. It'd be interesting to put a convolver behind it with a guitar body.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gert, when you use Orange Tree, I mean, I noticed that Orange Tree has a number of different guitar units, or whatever they call them. Each one sold separately.
Yeah, there's an electric one and a steel string one. That's it. Now they've got a lap steel also.
Okay, and they're all separate, costing about the same, I guess.
Yes.
Do you use all of them, or are you just using the acoustic?
I use the acoustic and the electric. If I want an electric, I use the electric. If I want an acoustic, I use the acoustic.
Fine. I was just wondering which ones you used.
Yeah.
I just have the acoustic, Larry, and mostly because I've been using, if I want an electric, I'll use AAS and put it through effects.
Okay. Yeah,
and,
sense.
AAS is perfectly good enough for that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not cheap, but I'm cheap enough to not buy something I actually don't need.
Well, I have to determine where my funds are going. I can't spend on everything, so.
Of course.
In fact, I went out last week and ordered a hollow body electric being built custom for me by a guy just about a half hour's drive from me. That's a guitar builder extraordinaire.
Wow, cool.
So I decided to invest in that. After watching your last video with Marvin, I said guitars are still pretty darn neat. That's my old one.
Yes,
that's one I built a couple years ago.
I'm working a lot on my guitar sounds again nowadays. Kind of looking back into it after a couple of years of not redoing them. I'm redoing them again.
Yeah, that's what it was with me. I got in the Eigenharp and got in all these synthesizers and all this other stuff, and the guitar kind of went by the wayside. And then I realized that it's still my favorite, so I'm back into it. And since this guy was still around, and for somebody that custom builds guitars, his prices are extremely reasonable. In fact, for a bit, I thought he had quit doing it or something, but he's doing it, and he's just a wonderful guy. I spent 3 hours with him last week just discussing how I want mine built. I'm going through all the wood he has. I wanted to have a quilted maple top, and he's showing me all his quilted maple tops. Gee, how do I decide? That was pretty. That was pretty too. But it's nice to have those choices.
Yes.
And so it's definitely built just for my tastes and everything. So
I always find that extremely stressful when something is customized, because you're like, I think that's pretty now, but will I think that's pretty in 10 years? I keep stressing out about that. It's like it's not a lot of the same scope as a guitar, but I had these in-ears molded to my ears, and then you could have something printed on them. So I basically had my initial with a certain font printed on them here, a G with a dot.
Cool. Yeah.
But then you're like, I think for several days I was like, am I going to do this? Am I just keeping them black or not? And then, am I going to regret putting a G on there? Isn't that presumptuous? Isn't that? I'm just like going all around this, and I think it's very stressful because once it's made, right? And they're
That's
not
right,
cheap.
yeah.
So have you ever heard of the affliction called OCD?
Hey, Rachita.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hey, Tim.
Wow. Getting busy.
It's a holiday
It's a holiday today?
in the States,
Is it? No?
No, it isn't.
isn't it?
No, our July 4th, Independence Day, is Wednesday.
Oh, and you actually hold it on Wednesday.
They actually hold it on Wednesday, and it's messed up a lot of people's plans because it's the middle of the week.
Yes.
They can't make a 3-day weekend out of it. A lot of people are trying to make a 5 or 6 day weekend out of it, but they have to use a vacation or sick time or something. So
Right.
it's basically this entire week is kind of shot for most people. Some people are taking off Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. Some people are taking Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. By the time you put it all together, it's like, okay, not much is going to happen this week.
No, not many companies can function.
No, it's definitely weird when it happens on the middle of the week, and they don't shift it or anything. I mean, it's not like they celebrate it on Monday or Friday or when it happens. It's just
July
still in the
4th
middle of the
is
week.
July 4th. Yeah, it's the same for
July
the
4th
holidays
is
here.
July 4th, and how about Canada Day, Mike? That just happened Sunday, I thought.
Yeah, it's the first, and it's another one that is celebrated exclusively on the first, but it happened to be Sunday. So
Yeah, that's
most
good,
people are off today.
Right.
So I asked a question on the forum, and I'm guessing the answer is no, given that it was
When did you ask that?
sometime during the week. I really think the answer is no, and it's a question about controlling the things that are just settings, just numbers in like when you click on edit.
Mm-hmm. You
How
can
do you do that?
you can attach a controller to it through Workbench. But
Yeah, okay. And that's my question. How do I do that?
But you want to control it from an external device or from a button on your Eigenharp?
Probably, I guess my first thought was I was going to assign a CC to it, but I just as soon do it internally.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if controlling it through CC is working. We intend it to work, but I'm not sure. Let me just take a quick look at how the state of the MIDI input is.
I guess,
Where's
for
my
example,
MIDI input?
the example I gave was using one of the strip controllers to control wet-dry mix.
Oh, that's very, very, very easy. Let me just see if I've got an example here. Well, let me share that window, screen share. Oh, you want me? No, let's keep that for the on-air part.
Yeah, okay, sure, that's good. Because it's not intuitively obvious how to do it, right?
Yes. I'm just quickly checking what, because we've been planning on. Oh, what's going on here? I just lost it. Oh, that's okay. I can't remember what's being output there. Yeah, I'd have to experiment to see what is being output through the continuous controller output from MIDI, from the MIDI input agent. Actually, I have no idea.
If there's a way to connect the strip controller directly to it, that's fine.
Yes, you can. That's actually quite easy.
But okay, I'll wait for that.
Actually, the strip controller is even easier. You just connect the strip controller to whatever you want to control.
But it's just a number when you click edit, right?
So is this a parameter inside a plugin, or is this a parameter from an Eigenharp agent?
Well, so actually it leads to another question, which Duncan and I were sort of playing with and never satisfactorily resolved, which was how to do wet-dry mix in the console mixer.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple of applications for that. And obviously it's possible because it's done with the final effects, right?
Well, the effect channels, yes.
And so we sort of came to the conclusion that you do pre-fader, turn it down, and you'd end up like the combination of the return signal from the effect and which is sent pre-fader and the level of the instrument itself gives you a wet-dry mix.
Yeah, well, pre-fader kind of depends. Some people even do it post-fader. If you want to derive the same effect from different instruments, it's typically a reverb, right?
Sure.
So the most important part there is that the reverb plugin is itself set to 100% wet. So as long as the plugin is set to 100% wet, then you can actually just mix the return from the effect together with the actual main fader.
Yeah, but if you do that, you only get to 50%, right? So you also have to turn the instrument itself off or do pre.
Well, okay, you want one slider to control wet-dry. That's what you want to do?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, that means that you're changing an effect channel to actually become a dedicated effect for a specific plugin or instrument.
Yeah, well, that actually was the domain we were working in.
Okay, well then you might as well just put an audio unit in line.
Yeah, okay. Just don't use the channel mix.
Yeah, and just put an audio
well,
unit
that's actually what we've been doing.
in line. Yeah. It's the easiest way to do that. Because otherwise you have to be aware that other channels are able to send their audio into the effect channel. And so a single control to actually control wet-dry mix doesn't really make any sense there, because you have to kind of balance it out based on which channels are feeding into it.
Actually, we should have had that discussion in the on here too. Maybe we'll do the same. So, Tim, what have you been doing? We haven't seen you forever.
Me? Yeah. I've been doing indie feature film stuff. So it's 14-hour days for 3 weeks. Got dumped with the entire sound for the entire project, and so haven't been doing much else other than that. And I think the other thing was that I got the email about the Eigenharp PCBs and kind of lost a little bit of forward momentum with doing Eigenharp stuff when I kind of heard it's like it's going to be another 3 to 4 months before I get my alpha. But I'm thinking I'll just get Workbench and muck around with that until 6 months is up and see what happens then.
Yep. Well, you've been playing Rock Band also, or is that Guitar Hero?
It's actually separated.
Oh, really? That's a Guitar Hero one, isn't it?
It's a Rock Band one,
that's a Rock Band.
But I took all of the pads off, and I'm turning it into an electric drum kit.
Cool.
So I also have a Guitar Hero drum kit over that way, and where I've got an Arduino, taken the piezo's, just gone piezo's into the Arduino with diodes and resistors to make sure it doesn't blow anything up, and MIDI out of the Arduino, and it works as an electric drum kit. So
awesome.
That was a cool little side project to see if I could get working. So
cool. So how's the film stuff going?
I submitted the final version as a low quality copy today, so that means that hopefully tomorrow it's done. Hopefully. So
you did that quite quickly for the length of the movie.
Yeah, so it's 80 minutes, and nuts, absolutely nuts.
Yes, I can totally imagine how nuts that is. You did that, what, in 3 weeks?
Yeah.
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 I can't even
The,
imagine.
Half an hour a week, that's actually incredibly productive.
Yeah. It was 2 passes. Oh, actually, it was the first pass was so that I got all of the audio and set it out in each of the characters. The second pass was getting all the levels of each of the audio files up to a decent level, which was kind of not really a decent level at all because when it was recorded on set, the recordist hadn't ever done location sound before, or was a producer who was filling in, and so I put the good old Waves L2 limiter over the dialogue subgroup and put 15 dB of gain in it and didn't have to worry about it clipping. So it was kind of like taking terrible audio and trying to resurrect something that didn't sound bad out of it.
That's tough.
And so it's not aiming for award-winning audio. It's aiming for audio that doesn't
suck.
Doesn't suck and doesn't draw people's attention to itself.
Yes.
So if you can just sit there and people can hear what they're saying, I've done my job well enough. So,
it's hard. Definitely.
Yeah.
In fact, I see stuff, especially on television, things that I don't think they accomplish that.
But they have to work very quickly also there, usually.
Yeah.
They just give one pass most of the times.
Yeah, for some reason, British stuff seems worse than American stuff. I don't understand why, but there always seems to be more trouble with the audio in the British things I watch on the television video.
It's actually, it's strange because French stuff is even worse. So when just even with feature films, so it's a complaint that I constantly have because I speak French fluently. It's a language I speak all the time, even though Dutch is my mother tongue. I have trouble understanding French dialogue in movies because they're so badly processed. You just can't make out the consonants and the voices are just not clear enough and not distinct enough. And it's very, very audible if you just switch between 2 movies and they're like blockbuster movies. It's not something, a little project or something like that, real feature film movies. It's horrible. It's almost incomprehensible.
Hard to understand.
The language?
I don't know. It's really a way of processing the audio. I have the impression they just don't properly compress it. And that they keep it with too much ambient audio so that you get too much of the room reverberation going together with the voices, making them much more difficult to understand. It seems like they make budget cuts based on that. Is that they kind of try to do as much with the location audio as possible instead of redoing it after the fact, certainly for the main dialogues, which makes it less understandable.
Yeah, but I mean, even then, you can take room tone, invert it, and subtract it. It tends to help.
Yeah, but I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, I basically the same comments about British. Of course, I don't understand French, so it's a little bit harder to evaluate that. But I have the same comment. A lot of British stuff I've seen. It's like, was anybody listening to this when they recorded it? It's so far behind, or the background music is so loud you can't understand what they're saying. It's like they aren't projecting their sound out. They're like swallowing their words or something. That's the impression I get.
Right. Yes.
That's the worst thing, absolute worst thing when you're on set and an actor comes from, you've got like theatre actors or movie actors, and a theatre actor will project their voice. And so they can be talking quietly, but their voice is still out there. Some other actors, though, they speak really quietly, but they just, they'll be trying to project, but you still, you have to turn them up, turn them down, turn it up, depending on who's talking. And
one of my favorite lines in a movie is Peter O'Toole, who says, "I'm not an actor, damn it, I'm a movie star."
That's funny.
That's a good one.
I want to run something by you guys who've been experimenting with some things. It's probably going to interest you, Larry. Let me see if I can get this running. Because I've been using Lemur. Because I've been, this eternal discussion about controlling plugins. And I think one of the problems typically is something that Novation tries to solve with their automap functionality. I don't know if you guys know about that. They kind of expose plugin parameters, and then they can map it automatically to whatever surface is there. I was thinking, so let me just share this.
Yeah, I've used Automap a little bit with my Launchpad, but not extensively yet.
It's not one doesn't want to share it. What is going on again here? Okay, so if I share this and the window goes away, it doesn't work. That's just try again, see if that works. Can't see that, huh? It's a black screen. Oh, I'm gonna share my whole screen then. Let me see.
We're good at squinting.
It is quite a big screen.
Why don't you just lower the res for?
Well, then the recording I'm doing, the screen recording is gonna.
Oh.
Never mind. Sorry.
So well, yeah. Can't I just share a portion? No, I can't. Well, you guys will see yourself. Just put that on top of you.
Okay.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So what I did was, I'm thinking of actually developing a little plugin, but I'm currently using Bajul for it. So what I did was I set up Bajul here as an audio unit, right? So it's in which I'm just hosting one audio unit, and it's just a pass-through, right? So it gets the MIDI, and then it outputs the audio back out, right? And then I set up an OSC server, basically, for that plugin that sends out all the plugin parameters, everything here, that is the host automation parameters, are being sent out straight to OSC, right?
Okay.
And the other way around, I also set up an OSC client that is listening to the port at which Lemur is sending out audio, sending out OSC. So, you know what? I think I can launch the Lemur client actually here, instead of showing on my iPad. Just open that up. So, I seem to remember that I can. Should I make this bigger or smaller? No. No. Okay, sorry about that. That's me. And then I can sync it, I think. Hang on, because this has been a while. Okay, so that's my main project. Let me see if it is in sync. Yeah. So you can see there that left wheel move, right?
Yeah.
The FM one. This is actually, I'm now touching my iPad, right? And at the same, if I'm touching Diva, it is actually, you can't see it update, but it's updating on my iPad. So it keeps in sync. So you can see as I move my iPad, you can see that Diva moves, the wheel in Diva moves, and it also moves in the Lemur editor. And so what I've been doing, I've been actually replicating most of the layout in Lemur, so I can switch tabs and they keep in sync. You can see that?
Yeah.
So I've been replicating most of the layout in Lemur on my iPad through, to mimic what the plugin does. And I just put it in front of me, don't look at the screen and just play that instrument with the iPad in front of me. And with the way that Lemur implements their widgets, it actually works quite well. I'm going to switch out of screen sharing, and I'm going to show you why I think it works quite well. So I've got my iPad here, right? So what's nice is that I can click on the wheel, and then I can move away. So based on the distance that my finger is, I can get finer or coarser. control over the values. So I can go very small movements if I go further away from the wheel. And it also allows you to see what's happening under your finger, because that's often what bothers me with touch controls, is you touch something and then what you touched, you can't see it anymore. So, and so this seems to turn out quite nicely. So now I was thinking, if you guys think that this is something that is worthwhile pursuing as kind of a generic solution. So what I was thinking is just basically developing an audio unit with which you can pre-scan all the audio units you have on your system, and it would kind of wrap itself around it. So initially I thought, just like with Biodual, just having one audio unit and then you can instantiate them in there. The biggest problem there then is then you can't see anywhere in your project setup. So if you use this in a DAW or in Eigenharp, you can't see which plugin you're actually using, because it will all be the same name. So
Gert,
yeah.
Just I want to make sure I understand.
Mm-hmm.
What you're proposing is taking the thing that would be in an audio unit rig, like the audio unit
just
agent,
the audio, yes, the AU agent, yeah.
and making an addition to it such that it's controllable via lemur.
But I was thinking of creating an actual real audio unit. So that could be used by Eigenharp, could be used by Logic, could be used by anything that hosts an audio unit, and it would wrap itself around any other audio unit. And what it does, so the biggest problem with Biodual is, first of all, you have to know how to set it up, which is it's quite tricky. The other thing is that it lacks some features. For example, one thing it doesn't do is it doesn't send. So if you make program changes on your plugin, it doesn't send out all the values for each widget that changed. It only sends it out when you change it manually. So what you typically want to do is be able to browse through your patches and then have your iPad GUI update based on what is present in the plugin. So that's there are a bunch of things missing in Biodual to do that well. So what I was basically thinking was a wrapper around an audio unit that has some very common, very simple controls. It just tells you, okay, which port do you want to listen to OSC, which port do you want to send, and what is your main prefix, and then all the rest will just be exported as OSC parameters. And it would listen to it and it would send to it, and then it's basically a matter of creating templates, either in Lemur or in Touch OSC or in anything that does OSC, to actually delve down into whatever the plugin is providing.
It sounds like a great idea. From my point of view, the decision that seems to sit in front of you is whether you create another layer, like that gets inserted where you want it, or whether you just simply add that as something you can enable in your existing audio unit host.
Yes, the problem with that is that means that the only way to provide plugins to an audio unit host is to use audio units or VSTs. The only generic way to host something audio or MIDI related that plugs into the workflow is an audio unit. So the only way then to do that is, I think, to wrap an audio unit in an audio unit, which is not a problem.
Well, or you could add that exact function into your current wrapper.
Yes, but then it would only be Eigenharp.
Ah, okay, it's not useful generally.
Right. So I think it's much more interesting to have something that's generally usable.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the way that I was thinking of doing that then was instead of what Biodual does is allows you to create an instance of the Biodual audio unit, and then you have to go pick which audio unit you want to host inside that audio unit, which is cumbersome and also not visible afterwards. Is to basically allow you to manage to scan again, just like any application that works with audio units, scan the audio units you have on your system, and then basically have them named differently, just the name of the audio unit with a suffix or something like that, so that it appears as if you're using that audio unit. But it would basically automatically then wrap that audio unit inside itself and set up everything so that you just can control it from OSC in a bidirectional way.
Which presumably means you could make a stage widget for it too if you really wanted to.
Yes, I think so, yeah. Well, stage is a little bit more complicated because it requires certain protocols. But
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, just want to.
I think you just got a resounding. That sounds interesting.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's very good. I have one quick question on your iPad.
Yeah.
How are you connecting the iPad to the computer? Is that wireless right now?
Yeah, that's Wi-Fi.
Okay. So you're just, what do they call that? I forget the name for it now.
Ad hoc.
Ad hoc network, yeah.
No, I'm using my home Wi-Fi network at the moment.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
you're going to full. Okay.
The big challenge is when you're out and about and there isn't one.
Yeah.
But I usually always travel with a small airport express.
Yeah, that works.
Mhm.
It's more stable than an ad hoc one.
I think you can probably use your hotspot on your iPad as well, if you have that feature.
I don't have that. I think. I don't think you can.
You have a cellular one, right?
Yes.
So you just turn on the hotspot and the traffic doesn't go anywhere anyway.
I don't have a SIM card in it, so.
Yeah, that'll slow you down.
Oh my.
Okay, no, but if you guys have any suggestions
nice.
or remarks about that, don't hesitate.
Well, I think Dragica made a good comment in the chat. I'd agree with that.
Yeah, well, that's the point. That's the point. It's like no brain setup thing. Just people have it scan.
Oh,
and then,
tailored for
proxy.
me. Tailored for people with certain lack.
Well, it is quite involving if you want to set it up in Bajul. It's very easy to get lost, not realize exactly. I also constantly forget to turn something on. You have to click on about 20 different things before it's running. So.
Yeah, I should thank you for that, Jack. Visual patch
page.
software.
Yeah, it's useful. Huh?
It's just, it was a great hint.
Yeah, I just saw that floating around. And, the routing thing in Jack itself is very confusing. So.
Well,
one thing I would say about the audio unit thing is if it just uses OSC generally, it means people with an Android phone can get Touch OSC or something else that uses that, and then we can create our own as well.
Exactly.
Because Lima doesn't exist on Android.
Okay.
So,
yeah, well, it's just OSC, so it would just be OSC. Yeah.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Do you want to go and start the broadcast, and we'll talk about Channel Mixer and actually the general question of controlling what are normally just settings?
Yeah, well, actually, let me just try it out first.
Yeah, well, we don't have to do it at all. We do many of our chats and never actually get to a broadcast.
Yeah.
Let me see.
For somebody that hasn't started messing with Workbench, I'm hoping a lot of this stuff that you did record I could go back and use as reference in the future when I do start working with Workbench.
Well, it should work. Well, let me try it. So absolute strip output 2. Let me just move that out. Let me just give it a quick try. Let's see. See if that works. If it doesn't blow up my computer.
That'd be a bad thing.
Yeah, so it's reversed now. Yeah, so that works. Probably better connected to the relative one. Let's try it later. No, I've got no sound anymore, of course. Oh no, I should have sound. Okay, so something is not working. Don't know why I don't have any sound anymore. Let's not do this on air.
Okay.
Good idea.
Well, just generally speaking, how do you connect controllers to numbers?
What?
Whether it works or not, sort of irrelevant.
That's strange. Anyway, no, just that's probably something that I did wrong here. So basically, let me share that then. Let me share Workbench. Larry, I'm posting this anyway afterwards, so don't worry.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's good.
So basically what I did was I took absolute strip output, yes, and I connected that to master volume. That's it.
Yeah, so if you...
And so now if I look at master volume, I can touch my strip and nothing happens.
Well, that I get, but now if
I know
you were
that's
to,
normal because nothing is active actually.
like, not everything has a little green tab, does it?
Interesting that it seems to correlate something. Well, it does work, but not as I hoped that it would work.
But are you saying that all of the number values that you see when you click Edit on an agent also have a little green tab?
Hang on. Sorry, what was your question?
The question was, are you saying that all of the numbers that you see when you click Edit, for example, on an agent also have a little green tab?
Most of them, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Should have. If you can change them, you're able to control them.
That's my question.
Yes. So you should. If you can change them, you should be able to control them. And then if you want to control from a key, then you can create a controller agent, which is there, the top controller. And in the controller agent, you can then create a connector. And what happens there is that connector is actually tied to a key column and row, so that you can actually select the key you want to work with, and then you connect the control output to whatever you want to control, in this case, master volume. And then it will be a key that controls that, a specific key. But of course, you could also directly connect yaw to volume, but then it would be any key, any yaw in the system would be controlling.
Oh, which might have some applications.
Yes, maybe. You probably want to sum it down afterwards, basically just put a summer in between the summer agent, so that you only get one channel of yaw, because it will be polyphonic. So that's that.
Okay, thanks.
The strange thing, though, is that it didn't behave exactly as I thought it would, which is something I have to look at.
Well, I'm always glad to ask a stupid question.
There are no stupid questions, you know that. So, yeah, I don't have any audio anymore, I think. Oh, no, it's there. Oh, that's strange. Okay, so that's good. That's cool.
Yeah, what you might have is, my impression is sometimes when you connect something up, send it a value, and then disconnect it, it just stays with whatever the last value.
Yeah, it could be that.
Yeah.
So this still works. Oh, it doesn't work anymore. I set something up, but it does. Oh, it does work. Can't remember how it works. Oh, there it goes. I started working with a Mobius looper also. I don't know if you guys looked into that for audio looping. It's quite interesting. I actually set up a button on the alpha here that starts recording, and then I've got a foot pedal here that's plugged into the Base Station Pro that stops it. And so I think no, it resets, clears it out. It's been a while since I tried to do that. Now it's tied to, I set this up to wait for a metronome. So it waits. Waited until this. Anyway, I'm not set up for that.
For what it's worth, I got an answer from the Voice Live, the TC Helicon people, who said, yeah, just turn down the gain and it'll take a line level signal. So I guess all I really need is an isolator just to make sure I don't get phantom voltage out of it and to adapt to a TRS jack.
Does it oh yeah. We need a transformer in between.
And the other thing that's, if anybody's interested in looping, the manual for Voice Live actually has a great tutorial section at the end on how to loop. Just generally. It would work with any software or hardware solution.
I'll have a look at that.
Yeah, that'd be good.
You guys should definitely check out Mobius. It's a bit daunting in the beginning because you can basically configure everything. You can really set it up exactly as you want. But it means that it's got about 3,000 options. I'm not kidding. It's really 3,000. You can set it up individually for each track and different layers in each track and what happens if you press a key and a MIDI note and MIDI CC and anything, which is quite cool.
Now that's a plug-in?
Yes, it's free.
Wow.
Yeah, I grabbed it a while ago, but never actually got around to figuring out how to use it because I got caught up with other things.
But they released a version 2 not long ago. It's actually way better than version 1 was, in my opinion. Yeah. It's actually stable now. Version 1 crashed regularly for me.
Yeah, as I recall, that's why you were using the other free one whose name escapes me, but it was sort of glitchy.
Super Looper.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem with Super Looper is there's a bug and they can't find it. I asked on the forums. The bug basically is if you have what I typically want to do is I want to record my first track in a free form so that I decide what the length is based on the music that I played. And then it starts looping and it uses that as the time base for the other tracks.
Yep.
Right.
That's exactly what Voice Live does,
yes.
by the way.
So if you want to do that with Super Looper, it kind of, the first playthrough, it plays on the left channel. The second playthrough, it plays in stereo. The third playthrough, it's the left channel. Fourth playthrough, it's stereo. So it's not very useful. So yeah. Well, if you do that while already being the thing is, if you're just totally freeform, I think it works. But if you want to still take the tempo from your host tempo, so that it would kind of wait, so that you can decide for how many bars you actually record, just freely, but that it would still quantize to the beginning and the end of a bar or a beat, and then it kind of gets into a tangle. Just I don't know why.
Yeah, so I think most people just use it truly free form with no MIDI clock at all.
Yeah.
Because they're playing acoustic instruments.
Yeah, well, Super Looper is, I suppose, I don't know, a lot of people integrate it with Live, and so
that's true.
It's...
Although, do they integrate it with Live to use it with instruments? Like, what's her name? I think she just integrates it with Live to control it, and to control multiple instances of it. What is her name?
Zoe.
Yeah. Yeah, Zoe Keating.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that Zoe Keating actually had some kind of a timeline set up in Live that would control exactly what Super Looper does at which time.
I think she does it with foot pedals.
Sometimes when you see that Wired video, have you seen that?
Yeah.
I looked at it many times, and there are some things that happen, and you just say, "That's not possible. She didn't touch the foot pedal."
I know. Well, it's the same as I really like Harry Manx. I went to one of his concerts. It's just him, and he had an accompanist, but the accompanist was not doing what I'm about to describe. And he somehow, in real time, manages his rhythm section. And I have no idea how he does it. It's clearly not scripted. But, you know, he'll do accelerandos, he'll cut down drum loops by putting some in and off. And he hasn't got any control interface for it. He's got a stomp box. Like the wooden stomp box thing. And that's it. Now, maybe he's got somebody off stage doing it.
It could possibly be. A lot of bands have that.
But I was sitting there in the audience thinking, okay, this is either magic or I really am missing something.
Now, what could be, is maybe what Zoe's doing also, is having that foot pedal and having one action on the foot pedal trigger a whole bunch of different things.
But it's not even a foot pedal. It's literally a block of wood and a microphone.
Okay. No. Yeah. Then.
And yes, it could be a secret audio tech.
Yeah, I think it's probably that.
And I bet the audio tech sweats too, so it could be a secret audio tech.
Very good. Very good. Well, maybe they got this neat wireless setup, and the guy's sitting out in the audience. You don't even know who's doing it. That would be optimal, I think.
I think he's pretty organic in most of his stuff, though. So, well, anyways, it'll eventually surface somewhere.
A whole lot of piezo's on the floor. He just kind of touches the piezo's.
That could be possible. Yeah, could be.
Well, I had thought of that because he plays on one of the cheap rugs, right? He's one of those guys.
Mm.
You just roll out a little 6x8 thing. He could have anything under that.
Maybe he's got invisible infrared beams you can't see that he's breaking, like one of those.
Larry.
Harps.
He's a guitar player. He's not going to be doing that.
Well, you don't. Yeah, there is. What is that? A while ago, I saw this company that made little things that you could add to your guitar, like MIDI controllers that you could kind of stick to, and it could be sliders and proximity sensors, and you could just stick them on your guitar, and then they would wirelessly communicate. So maybe he's got some things simulated on his guitar. Yeah. Could simply be a switch on his guitar that you don't know that he uses. And
well, actually, if you get a chance, just YouTube the guy. He's got some really interesting stuff, and it was interesting. I've got a couple of videos of his, and I guess I just never looked carefully. He does these amazing banjo things. How are you doing that? And the answer is it's a banjo body, but basically a 6-string guitar neck and tuners.
Okay. I've seen those, yeah. For people that don't want to learn new chords. But they want a banjo sound.
Well, if it works, all the better.
Yeah.
Well, I think I heard an interview with him once where he basically said, I just tune everything to open D and it makes life easy. He's exceptionally good. Anyways, there's my ad for Harry Manx.
Yeah. No, so I've been, apart from that, I've been continuing to try to find a violin sound with the cello oscillator and the convolver. I'm inching closer to something that starts to be good, I think. But each time I play something, it's like, that's not really good. It's difficult to find one that works in all the registers and that behaves acceptably, not greatly, but acceptably in different ways of playing it, whether it's low or up. Not to be
as
too...
a plug-in or as part of Eigen-D?
It's just repurposing the cello oscillator and the convolver to actually play a violin instead of a cello.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the appropriate IR response and tweaking.
Yes.
The latter part being the trick.
Yes, the tweaking is really the trick. But I keep going back and forth between different approaches, and it's Yeah, but it's interesting.
So in the future, we're going to have more, I don't know, as we call them, native instruments in eigand or whatever. Where
It's a plan, yeah. But I'm just doing
Yeah.
this for myself.
Because there is a lot of power
Yeah.
in there. I saw from the synthesizer and other stuff. So I mean, native, is that the right term to use for these instruments that are part of eigand?
Yeah, you can call them like that.
Okay,
Right to me.
That's a plan. That's a plan, actually. But
it's a good one.
it's. I hope we'll get to that soon because I'm a bit tired of doing workbench stuff.
Yeah, I guess, Gert, really, it would be a very effective use of programming time, because once you've got an oscillator based on a model, then the rest of it is, it's sort of component based, so you can build it up quite effectively from the standpoint of how much time you spend programming.
Yes. Yes. Well, it's on the. I say this on the to-do list. John keeps saying, we'll soon get back to the music stuff. Okay. So, so I'm hopeful that it will be soon.
Well, I mean,
Once we get 2.0 out and stable, I suppose.
I would think that the ultimate goal someplace down the road here is that it would be easy for musicians to use without having to get super technical and programmy, but give you a lot of the versatility and complexity of the Eigenharp. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, in my humble opinion, it's there now from that perspective. It's just some people, myself included, experiment too much. I mean, you can take version 1.4 and fire it up, load pretty much anything you want, and go wild, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think some of it needs better documentation still, because I hadn't used my my MIDI out for many months, and I just set it up and did that last week. And it only took me about 20 minutes to figure out how to punch all the buttons to get it so I could get to the chooser, which allowed me to choose the MIDI that went out of the box into my Shruti in this case. And I'd done it before, but just going through all the pages back and forth and the guides, it was a little cumbersome.
Yeah, Larry, I have that experience too, but it's me. It's not documentation. It's just, the stuff I do all the time, I know. The stuff I don't do all the time, I don't.
Well, I was thinking, even just for me and for other people too, maybe, is you have documentation as, oh, you want to have, MIDI out, go out through your, audio interface thing that has MIDI on it, step 1, step 2, step 3, and you're there. Rather than step 1 and I messed it up, and step 2 and I messed it up, and step 3 and I messed it up. Eventually I figured it out.
The thing with that is, we get a lot of that, Larry, but everyone wants to do something differently. It seems something very obvious to you because you want to do exactly what you have in mind. So right. you would like to have seen the exact steps for you. And they seem obvious because you just have your stuff in front of you. Well, if you write a tutorial like that, you'd better be dead on step by step. Right? If you say this is a step-by-step tutorial, it has to be step-by-step. And it's very difficult to come up with all the step-by-step tutorials that everyone, with every configuration and every computer and every piece of software and audio interface and whatnot uses.
Yeah.
So the great irony is, if you actually do that, then the complaint is there are too many of these, and I can't find the one relevant to what I want to do.
Yes. So there's a very simple solution to that, which is if the community comes up with a whole collection of recipes, I call these, to do things, and you put them on the wiki or record a video about it, and it takes about half an hour to do something like that. If people just start doing that, then eventually you'll get this mass collection of how-tos. They might be just for you, but it's very, very possible that someone or just 3 other people have something that's close to what you're doing. And since it's not Eigenlabs doing that, they'll not give you as much slack. They will not be like, oh, but it didn't work for me, you'll have to make another one that's exactly as how, because you're a company, you have infinite resources, so you can do that, right? Sadly, that's the attitude of a lot of people. So if we don't do it perfectly for everyone, we'll just get half of the people bitching, sadly.
Yeah.
And if they bitch at me, I just shrug and go, "Oh well."
Yeah,
too bad.
and they won't bitch to you. Most of the people, the reaction will be opposite. Yeah. Oh, you're so great for doing this in your spare time.
Yeah.
Can you please tell me why that step didn't work for me? And then it's totally different approach.
Yeah, and they might actually you might actually say, "Yeah, I know why that didn't work for you. Here it is." Or you might say, "Well, I have no idea at all because I don't have box X." And both of those are acceptable answers.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. I've seen that there are people doing similar things to what you're talking about with some of the applications for the iPad.
Yes.
Like, well, this is, here I figured out how to do this. I'll make a little video, and other people might be interested in doing the same thing.
Yeah. It's funny because one of the top videos on my channel is basically how to use Amplitude and AmpKit on your iPad with your guitar. I still get a lot of questions about that.
Sure, because it sells a lot of copies, and people get it and go, "Oh, look, here, I can find out how."
Yeah. So I think that is really something that's probably best done by the community.
Yeah, makes sense.
I wonder, and I'm just wondering aloud, this sort of crowdsourcing of stuff. I'm not sure it's the best thing to stick in the Eigenlabs wiki, and I don't even know where you'd put it. But I wonder if it deserves its own sort of spot, and even if it remains empty, because I sort of suspect it might remain not full. At least it's got a spot, and when somebody says, "Well, what about this?" you just sort of point at it and say, "Oh yes, there."
There's a tips and tricks section on the Eigenlabs wiki that's kind of made for that.
I guess.
That's where people are free to post whatever they want, and there are a bunch of other locations also. So yes, there's that. And, otherwise there's always EigenZone that I started 3 years ago with that actually in mind before Eigenlabs had a wiki. And then there's other ways of doing that. It might simply be a group on Vimeo. We post all the videos on Vimeo and have them all go into a Vimeo group. There is an Eigenharp Vimeo group that Chris and I started a while ago.
I remember that.
I think the resources are there. And the thing is, people doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
I went through this a whole number of times with other tools and just gear that created websites and even programming stuff, and you can make it as easy as possible and you can make it as intuitively as possible for people, but eventually, even if it's hard, someone that really wants to do it is going to figure it out. It's not the fact that it's easy or difficult. The most effort is actually someone sitting down and doing that stuff once in a while. It's not where do I put it and how do I organize it. That's usually not keeping people back. So, yeah. But yeah, I really think that this is the kind of stuff that kind of is the responsibility of the community, and there's only so much that I or Eigenlabs can do about it. If there are 3 people in the community that do this once in a while, others will start feeling kind of interested in that also. So, oh, that helped me. Now I figured out something. Well, since I got helped by all these things, I'll post something too. It only it needs this little catalyzation, but it needs that basic mass of people in the beginning to get that started. So yeah.
Speaking of which, I'm up to 60 copies of the book that got downloaded, which doesn't sound like a big number.
No,
but
it is nice. Yeah, it's good.
That's a good number.
It is. Yes. And do you get any feedback about it?
Not really. I'm sort of working on some updates. Like some of it's a bit dated, and I could put tons of stuff in the appendices that are a little bit more how-to type. Well, actually, are much like what we've just been discussing.
Yes.
So if anybody wants to put something in a bit, let me know. Write it. Send it to me. I'll just add it. Give you credit for it.
Cool.
Good idea.
And also I want to update some of the online sites. and I figured out how to actually include YouTubes instead of sending people off on links. So I think I'd rather do that than send them away from the book and have them have to come back.
I'd do both.
Yeah, sure.
I typically, personally, I prefer watching it in the YouTube viewer. I don't know why. It kind of gives me access to the comments and to the other videos of the user, and it kind of gives, it feels more social. Even on websites, when they embed a YouTube video, I usually click the link on top of the video instead of play the video in line.
Yeah. I might actually do that with John's movie and just link to it because it makes the download sort of immense.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Plus, on YouTube, I like all those suggestions that go down on the right side. I use those all the time and wind up all sorts of places I didn't know I didn't know I was going to, but it's still very educational and fun.
And then the day is over.
Huh?
And then the day is over.
Yeah, well, that's the other problem.
it was morning. Now it's
the famous question.
4 hours.
The famous question on YouTube, Apple TV, iTunes is, how did I get here?
Exactly. But it's a lot of fun, and it's well, if you have the time, I guess. But time does get away from you. I've run into that too.
Speaking of which, it's 11.
Yes, well, I'll have to sign up because I'm actually working today, so just taking 1 hour out of this.
Guys, thanks for coming, and we'll see you Wednesday or next week.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Meets next week. Bye.
Enjoyed seeing y'all. Bye-bye.
Yeah.